Jessie, tell me about your business, how you got started, and what you're kind of working to help women with at the moment.
Absolutely. So I started my career as a math teacher in New York City public schools, and about 12 years in, was ready for change, wanted the next, evolution, and frankly was shocked to find myself starting my own business and having that be the next incarnation. I shifted from coaching math teachers to coaching spiritual teachers. Very similar work, but very different demographic. And very early on realized that money was like the block. So I wanted to talk about curriculum and impact and all that stuff, but really what needed to be addressed was money. And so in many ways, my business guided me. And now here I am. This is almost 4 years later. And I coach spiritual teachers and healers around building 7-figure businesses. I teach sales as a spiritual practice. And I know how to do that because I built, without any entrepreneurial background, I did not go to business school. I built my own business to 7 figures in 2 years. And so if I can do it, like from being a math teacher, anyone can do it. That's my lens on this.
What is the biggest block to women growing a 7-figure business? Like, what's the key thing that holds us back?
That's such a good question. I think that there's a few things. One is that it's requires quite a bit of discomfort to choose to make that kind of leap. It's really about changing class. And as much as, at least in America, that's like the American dream, but it's actually very uncommon that people do that. It requires that we be willing to take quite a different path than our lineage, than our community, than our background, our ancestry. And so there's a lot of both very kind of practical patterns that we have to change, as well as people that we have to kind of be willing to leave behind. I don't actually think we have to leave them behind, but it feels like we do. And so it can be really scary for people. I often compare it to jumping out of an airplane. It's like, don't know, your brain does not know that you can survive jumping out of an airplane. And so it's that scary. It's that terrifying for people.
And that's quite an uncomfortable concept for a lot of people, this idea that like to be successful and to grow a business into $1 million and beyond requires the shedding of friendships and relationships. Why do you think that is?
Why do we need to shed?
Well, yeah, why do we need to shed? Yeah, exactly. Why is it that we have to leave people behind often?
So again, I want to clarify because I think that this is important. We don't have to necessarily leave people behind, but we have to be willing to. And I think that in some ways it's like we're always choosing, consciously or unconsciously, we're always choosing. And our unconscious will choose whatever it is that it's used to, whatever it is that's familiar, including people, including occupations, including activities, including clothes, including homes, right? In order to make any kind of change. Money in particular, that's what we're talking about. But it's true with any change. We have to be more committed, more excited, more desirous of the change than we are of whatever it is that we could choose instead. So that's the most kind of simple version of the explanation. But concretely, like for me, before, when I was teaching high school in New York, I was living in a kind of ashram commune that we built. People that I lived with were paying between $600 and like $1,200 a month for rent, and struggling to make the decision to invest in a new refrigerator, which would have been like an additional $600 a piece, right? So that's who I was surrounded with. I love them. Those people are visionary. They're amazing. They're all kinds of spiritual, talented, artistic. But money was not their area of mastery, nor was it their priority. And so when I started focusing on money, it just showed the gap between us. We're interested in different things. And when I decided that I wanted to upgrade my lifestyle, it meant moving out of that house. It was so simple, so pragmatic. But that meant literally like the foundation of those relationships had to change because we were used to being in the same kitchen every day. And then all of a sudden, my husband and I were like, actually now we want to live on the beach. And like live alone. And it's a very different, on such a simple way, but it has had a big impact.
So how did you make that leap? So you mentioned that you were in a certain living situation, and to kind of elevate and get to your financial goals and your business goals, you knew you needed to remove yourself from that situation. Like, was there anything that helped you kind of make that leap? Because it's quite a big shift, isn't it?
It's a huge shift. I think there's so many things, but the first and most obvious perhaps, but like, I don't think we can skip it, is that I hired a coach who helped me see what I wasn't seeing, who helped me look at the impact of my choices, who helped me get more conscious about what I was choosing. And I continue to work with mentors, and will probably always do that, because there's always stuff that I can't see, right?
Yeah,
it's like I can't see the middle of my back. I'm like, can you help me there, maybe?
And I think sometimes it's hard, because when you mentioned that you're in sort of like an ashram community, when you're in a situation where people don't invest money in things like a coach, and some people are like, oh, it's so airy-fairy, why would you bother? That's bullshit. Like, a lot of people, that's their perception. And so but it's interesting, because I would say actually one of my dear friends, Lauren Trelin, she's a coach, and she really encouraged me to see the value in that. And I certainly I'm more than happy now to invest in coaching and that kind of stuff, because I see the shift that it makes. But I think a lot of people watching might be like, I can't afford that. COVID-19's affected my employer or my own business. Like, this is not the time for me to be investing. I need to be saving. Like, what would you say to people who are kind of feeling like that right now?
So there's two questions embedded in what you just said. The first one, actually love that I get to share this. I just reread this article in the New Yorker called Personal Best.
Personal Best, okay.
Atul Gawande, I think is his name, surgeon.
Okay.
Who hired, the article was written in 2011, and I read it when I was coaching math teachers. Like, it was introduced to me when I was that kind of coach. But it's a long article, but it is worthwhile read, and it articulates in many ways like exactly what you're talking about, the challenges that people have, understanding even that it would be worthwhile to have a coach.
Yeah.
And he looks at a variety of disciplines, from pro athletics to pro music, like the highest level of performance, to teaching, to surgery and medicine.
Yeah.
And basically his conclusion is like, coaching is great. Everybody should do it.
Yeah.
And there's a fundamental discomfort in letting someone in, particularly if you're good at what you do, right? It's one thing if you're starting out, but if you're good at what you do, in whatever field you're in, to let someone outside in is so vulnerable. You're extra, like, you're specifically asking them to critique you and give you negative feedback, you know? It's like very vulnerable. So I think that article is a worthwhile read for anyone who's considering coaching. COVID specifically, the current of our economic flow has shifted. It has not stopped.
Yeah. If
what you want to do right now is make more money, not less, that option is available to you. I actually think that what's happening during the quarantine period is that the challenges that entrepreneurs face all the time are just showing up in even bolder relief. The contrast has been turned up. So people are worried about spending money. Entrepreneurs are always worried about spending money. People are struggling to decide, should they save or invest? That's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
People are dealing with uncertainty. Welcome to entrepreneurship. Like, these are, they're themes that are always present. The quarantine time is definitely different, but it's highlighting the challenges that I think any entrepreneur needs to face. So I would encourage people, as I always would, to pay attention to what you want and trust that what you want is wanted. You wouldn't be having the dreams and fantasies and visions of whatever business you want to create or expand if it wasn't wanted by the world. So the cooperative resources are here, and your job is to find them.
I love that. And if anyone's got any questions, they can definitely send them through. But just quickly, just before we wrap up, if you had to give people who are listening, who are wanting to kind of get their business to that 7-figure point, what would be the 2 key pieces of advice that you would give someone who's desiring that $1 million plus business mark?
So, 2 is hard. I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to cheat and give you 3.
We'll allow it.
The first is to, like, go deeper in why you want what you want.
Right.
right? Like connecting the dots. It's not, if you're just wanting to prove something, that's not going to be the right fuel supply. You want to be coming from that place of knowing and vision.
Yeah.
So that's the first. Want what you want and know why you want it.
Mm-hmm.
The second is to do the math, like run the numbers at your current pricing with your current sort of availability.
Mm-hmm.
Can you theoretically make the money? If not, then you got to go back into strategy and think about, do you need to raise your prices? Do you need to serve more people? Do you need to serve more people at a time? And third is to give yourself explicit time to master sales. That's the number one foundational piece that I teach every single one of my clients. And if you don't have that piece, this whole conversation is kind of moot.
And talk me through that, because again, I think some people think sales is a dirty word and like it's so schmarmy and like it's those guys with briefcases and they're kind of gross, and like that's kind of often the image that's like conjured in people's mind. Yeah. But you talk a lot about this concept of sales being really like offering your gift to others, like and reframing it. Do you want to quickly talk us through that?
Yeah, I had the same ideas about sales. The way that I think about that now is that those are just bad sales, right? Like there's good art and bad art. Nobody likes the bad art. Everybody wants the good art. There's good sales and bad sales. The truth is we live in a very capitalist society, a very consumerist culture. People love being sold to. They just want it to be done well. They want it to be done in alignment with their desires. Mm-hmm. So I teach my clients, all of them, spiritual teachers and healers and people who are really like, they're all about service. They're all about alignment. They want integrity. They care about, exactly. So the truth is that when you line up with the truth of who you are, your full authority, your full mastery, your full power, you're never going to get into a manipulative conversation with someone in a sale. Mm-hmm. Like it's always going to be about what they want, serving them, making sure that you're connecting the dots for them, whether that means that they hire you or that means that you refer someone else or send them an article or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that the way that I teach sales is also, it's an interesting thing because it's kind of a personal development practice, like very selfish perspective. Anything that you are enjoying or experiencing that's fun for you about me right now, I guarantee I can trace it back to my training in sales.
Interesting. That's such an interesting way of framing it. And I think as well, is it also, do you think women in particular sometimes struggle with the concept of sales because we're sort of socialized to not want or ask for money? Like that is kind of something that is inherently uncomfortable for a lot of us?
Yeah, for sure. We're taught not to talk to strangers. We're taught not to ask for anything. And we're taught not to talk about money, even at like the dinner table with our family. So for sure, sales touches all those things. Yeah. And again, it goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier, that if you want to have a 7-figure business, if you want to have a business at all, you have to care more about the vision that you have for your business and the financial goals that you have for your business than you care about feeling comfortable, which is the only way to avoid those conversations. Like when you're making the transition, you're going to have to go through the discomfort of talking to strangers, asking for money, and talking about money in the first place. Like this is just a part of the training.
Yeah, that's a really great way of framing it, that you have to get over your own insecurities and your own kind of blockers in order to get to that 7-figure success. And I love the way that you frame the work that you do. It's all about adding an extra zero to someone's business, which is exciting. And hopefully, and I'm sure a lot of your clients are having a lot of success doing that, even in the current economy. Because as you said, there's still people that need help and need services and products. And so I feel like a lot of people that I'm speaking to, kind of surprisingly, honestly, are doing really well and frankly better than they were pre-COVID, which feels counterintuitive to me, but I'm hearing that a lot from a lot of people.
Yep. I think it's because entrepreneurs in general have that risk-taking, opportunity-seeking mindset. Right. So they know, they just gotta hold the vision and the opportunity is there.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Jessie, it's been such a pleasure. Where can people connect with you and how can they keep in touch?
Jessie Johnson Coaching, JESSE Johnson Coaching, on any social media platform. I'm doing open forum training every Thursday where you can ask me any question you want. So you want to dive a little deeper. That's amazing. Totally free all the time since quarantine.
That's so cool. I love that you're giving back that way. Jessie, we're so grateful that you were able to join us today. Thank you for joining today's Power Pep Talk, and we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Thanks, Jessie.